Well, hello there and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and today we continue our walk down X-Plane Lane with the Big Daddy, the Kahuna, the Goblin, the thing that goes bump in the night, the F-117A, the Nighthawk. Now, the Nighthawk is interesting in that last week we talked about Have Blue and Lockheed Skunk Works building a proof of concept airplane really inexpensively based on a never before tried formula that was done in a computer that could scatter radar waves. Now the step was to take it up to the next level, and that next level is the F-117A, the Nighthawk. So today I am with my ubiquitous assistant, Jason. Greg is a little bit under the weather. Send Greg some positive waves. Now, Jason today has gone in Greg's footsteps and dressed me up as a skunk. Now, I may be a skunk, but it's also skunk work. So we're following the theme. Jason is learning here. So I'm going to toss this off camera to Jason. There you go. Nice catch by the Jason. So we're going to go ahead and start with the model here. This aircraft has to be, I would say, one of the most groundbreaking designs in the history of manned flight. And I'm going to explain to you why, and you can argue with me in the comments section. I encourage you to do that. But we had Have Blue, proof of concept. Lockheed basically put together a bunch of parts. The real key was the design of the airplane, these angles of deflection in Have Blue, that they could test whether or not they could scatter those radar waves. They proved they could do that. Unfortunately, as I said, they lost both of the test airplanes over the program, but they proved the proof of concept. Now, the F-117 went a bit further. The first flight was in 1981. It was introduced in 1983. The idea now was to create, based on that other design, a deep strike penetrator. The aircraft was not very quick. The aircraft could only run at a little over 632 miles an hour, if you want to be exact. The idea was, though, is that you had a platform, I'll give you a plan view, that you could now fly into the most contested Soviet airspace and attack key command targets. Because what we had discussed before is the Russians had come up with a plan to where they had essentially air defense in depth. They had proved it in Vietnam. They had caused horrendous losses. As I mentioned, in the Yom Kippur War, they also had very heavy losses to Soviet-designed air defenses. And Western planners just didn't think that if a full-scale war started in Europe or anywhere where these frontline anti-aircraft systems were employed, that the force that was attacking these strike packages would be attrited in such a heavy fashion that within a few weeks you wouldn't have anything meaningful left to fight with. That's what drove this. Now, this aircraft, as it was designed, had no offensive weapons. You can see as I put that plan view up, it had all these very interesting shapes that Jason could get on a walk around, and that was all designed to deflect radar. The inlets, the intakes also had a unique design that was designed to deflect radar. Now, it also had on the tail the ability to, the engines were buried in here, but this was a non-afterburning, a GE 404 engine, and the idea behind that was it would come out in these little slits on the back of the airplane. It was called a platypus exhaust. The idea behind that was guess what? You can't see it from the ground. The infrared signature is very low. It was very quiet. The airplane was very quiet, and it had the same tiles that are used on the space shuttle to diffuse the heat back there. Now, I want to encourage you on our YouTube channel. I am going over this very, very quickly. The idea itself, we actually have a lot of the folks that we've interviewed that were directly involved in the program. I encourage you to go out to our YouTube channel, and we have those up under the stealth segment, and I encourage you to watch those. Take a cup of coffee. Those are long form interviews, but I'm going to go right down the top of this today and not get too deep into it. Those technical conversations I encourage you to view, especially if you're interested in stealth. So I'm going to put this down and I'm going to walk over here, and Jason, I think I'm still in frame. I'm in frame. This is a cutaway that we have in the exhibit. Now in the cutaway you can see the pilot is up here. He's ensconced in this cockpit, a pretty good size cockpit. There is the glass on the cockpit is treated with a coating that will deflect or prohibit electronic waves from either going in or coming out. The cockpit, the visibility is not tremendous, but remember the airplane is being flown into the target in a head down position because the pilot's flying the aircraft into the target. We'll talk about that in a second. You can see the serrated edges, which are a feature of that, which is a radar deflecting. They're the radar deflecting design that is all over the aircraft. Up in the front, you'll notice those nodes that are in the front. Those are the flight control computers. Those came out of a F-16 program, and this aircraft, because the aircraft is inherently unstable, the airplane is fly-by-wire. Those little sensors up there talk to the computers in the airplane, and they're constantly making adjustments to keep the airplane in the air. So essentially what the pilot is doing is the pilot is only making suggested inputs. What I mean by that is he knows where he wants to go with the inputs in the stick, and then the computers take that input, figure out how the best way is to manage the flight controls to get the airplane to do what he wanted, what the pilot wants to do. So you see those big inlets that we talked about there. Those inlets, again, are designed, those are called the ice makers. They do look like ice makers. There's actually a like a windshield wiper piece that will sweep these to knock the ice off, which I thought was kind of interesting. That is an opening on the top of the fuselage. That's another breather. So if you give the engines a little bit of gas, those things will open up. They actually will bang close. And I've talked to some of the bandits, the pilots that flew the airplane, that said that was quite disconcerting when those things would bang close. But that you could get more air into there. You'll also see the maintenance guys. I've crawled through those. It's actually quite spacious, even for someone as rotund as I am. And that would allow a maintenance guy, they could be crawling around in there as well, do maintenance. You see the GE 404 non-afterburning engine where it trunks out to what I talked about with that platypus exhaust, and there's those heat defer tiles that sit up in the top. The construction of the airplane overall is there's titanium, there's aluminum on it, this coating that we've talked about, the RAM, we're going to talk about that in a minute and why it's not on our airplane, but this entire aircraft is coated in that radar absorbent material, so that is another way that the radar waves can be scattered off the airplane. There's the antennas. This aircraft, the antennas have to be raised and lowered electrically in the airplane for the pilot to communicate. When the pilots, when they were on their way in to the strike, in other words, into wherever they were going to drop their bombs, these were retracted and they could not talk to the rest of the aircraft in the flight. That was a way to keep the airplane stealthy. So when you're going where you're going to go, and this is a GPS flown airplane, when you go into stealth mode in this aircraft, you are completely on your own. You can't talk to anybody. Theoretically, they can't see you. They don't know where you're at. You're flying your mission. We're going to talk about pilot selection in a minute, but you were on your own in this particular airplane. Now the airplane this is laser guided bombs or smart bombs that it could carry up to two 2,000-pound laser guided bombs. Those could be penetrator or bunker buster bombs or fragmentation bombs, but make no mistake about it, this was not an air superiority airplane. This was to penetrate the Russian defenses that we talked about, to get in, to go after high value targets like command and control, and to literally cut the head off the enemy, take out their bunkers, their decision-making bunkers, take out any of their air defense nodes, communication nodes, any kind of high-value target. This is the airplane that would go in. Now, when those bomb bays were open, the airplane was visible to radar. So if the bomb bay popped open, that was when, because you got a big flat panel there, could be seen. So when the bombs came out, they were just open for a very brief period of time, as fast as it could. So the bomb would come out, they just open, bomb out, and close back up. We're going to talk about why that's important here in a minute on the aircraft. The pilots in these airplanes primarily were initially fighter pilots, but then later in the program they decided that they wanted, and I am told this, so you bandits can argue with me out there, you would know more than I would, but I am told that they went with F-117 and more bomber pilots, B-1s, because they wanted folks that weren't as, what's the correct term, Jason? Let's say jinky with the airplane, would not give the airplane as hard an input, fly the airplane as hard. Like I said, I've been told that. You can argue with me in the comment section if you are a bandit. I wasn't there. So don't kill the messenger. So I'm going to walk back over here, and I'm going to get to my tribute. As I said, this aircraft is probably, in my book, the biggest game changer, and it set off an arms race, and I'll tell you in a minute how it did that. But I want to get to my root beer. Jason is on it today. This is Death Valley root beer, Black Death. Our airplane is called the Black Devil. That's its name. Each stealth had a name. And so Jason has gone with Death Valley root beer, a taste of the Old West. Let's see. Brewed by Indian Wells Brewing Company. I wonder, that's not here local, I don't think, Jason. They didn't get the memo on the pure cane sugar, which they will throw out sometimes. So who I want to salute today, well, first of all, Ben Rich, all of the designers, but all of the people that worked on this, and the bandits that flew it, and the maintainers. You got to remember, this airplane was a completely black airplane. What I mean was, not the color, it was in the black area. When we talk about that, we're talking about the non-disclosure. It was a top secret airplane. A black program, they get their names in the Air Force budget because they're lined out with like black markers, and you don't know what they cost. This airplane was top secret in 1983. There was in 1988, there was a grainy picture of the airplane shown, and then in 1990, it actually came out of the black world to the light. It came into the light, Jason, and it was then captured the public's imagination. But to Ben Rich and all of the folks that are on the project, and all of those folks that made this happen, they were on the cutting edge, 40, 50 years ago. And I'm sure there's things that we don't know about now that our military is operating, but they kept a pretty darn good secret. The Russians never had any idea that this airplane existed until it actually started operating, and then they had an inkling that they were up against something that was pretty scary. So all the folks that were in that program that made stealth happen, I salute you. You know what, Jason? Greg, who is home with the rumbly tumbly, would be upset because this is actually pretty good. You're not feeding me the 90 weight oil, used oil that he normally gives me. I'm going to take another sip of this. Great job. All right, so the airplane became operational. This has been done a million times in combat. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It was in Panama. It was in the Gulf War. It was in Yugoslavia. I told you I would tell you about the timing on those doors. The aircraft, we've lost one stealth out of the 59 aircraft that were built. So the United States Air Force got a little bit overconfident, and this is when they were flying in combat in Yugoslavia. The airplanes took off, and the Yugoslavs had spies there, so they knew when they took off. They flew the same routes. The EA-6B strike package that was with them couldn't make it because either bad weather or they had a mechanical. So the airplanes were going in. Now they were up against a Serbian battery, a missile battery commander that was really cagey. And in a nutshell, what he decided to do was he decided to deploy multiple systems that he was going to launch, and he was going to try to bracket the stealth. He was going to bag himself with stealth. It really didn't work up until the point where the F-117 opened its door and they were able to get a lock on the airplane real quickly on that. The rest is history. The airplane got hit by a SA-3. It was downed. And that is the only combat loss of the stealth. So the aircraft soldiered on until 2008, and then it was retired when the F-35 came into being, because the F-35 started to deploy a lot of the ordnance here. Now that isn't the end of the story, Jason. Although the aircraft went into storage, what happened with it was eventually there was by Congress, they made a decision that they could start releasing some of the airplanes. So they're releasing 4 of the aircraft a year. Now the other thing is they are flying them as basically for opposition force aircraft or Red Air, whatever you want to call them, to use them as training platforms, because the aircraft is still incredibly stealthy. And it is still very hard to see. The shape it makes it very hard for radar operators, so they're using them to simulate cruise missiles and do other things that are stealthy. So every once in a while, you will see what I call the goblin is afoot. So you will see those. Now, Lockheed tried, believe this or not, Jason, there was an F-117N, which would have had a 414 GE in it, which was afterburning, and it would have had hardpoints, if you can believe that, and an air-to-air capability. The Navy got to the point where they really didn't think that was a good idea. There was also an F-117B pitched, which had a similar profile, and again, the aircraft never went anywhere. They ended up going with the F-35, and the rest is history. Now, let's talk a little bit about our plane as we go out of here. Our aircraft is the Black Devil, stealth number, tail number 833. It is the second highest combat time at 75 hours aircraft in the stealth fleet. It has 5,140 hours on the airframe. Now, when they worked on this airplane, and Jason, I'm going to walk a little bit and you can follow me. We won't get too far away from you, but we're going to do a little bit. I'm actually going to walk and talk, which I normally don't do in Warbird Wednesday. What's missing on this airplane? Everybody comes in and says it's not black. Well, in the DMIL process, when the Air Force decided they were going to release the airplanes, one of the things is they took all of the radar absorbent material off the aircraft. So they stripped it all off. The other thing that they did was people ask how airplanes fly, and I say things are magic. Well, the leading edges on this airplane are magic. There were things in there that contributed to the stealthy nature of the airplane. So they took off all these leading edges. When you come to the museum and you see the exhibit in the home of the Black Devil, you will notice that we're putting all this stuff back on. We made a decision to actually go with metal. Some folks have gone with fiberglass and done other things. The other thing we did with the airplane is we put an extruded edge on it to give it a harder edge. Some of the demill process, we didn't like the way the hull turned out, so we've replaced some of the hull, and I'm talking about on the upper body of the airplane. You'll notice that we've made a few changes, but at this point, the aircraft is just about ready for paint. Some folks have actually painted theirs when they came into the facility, some of the museums. We decided not to do that. We wanted to get all of the, you want to call the body work done first. So the aircraft, this particular airplane, is now complete with the exception of a small segment of the tail and the flaps, the flaperons, and the exhaust. They're working on that now. We believe the airplane will be ready for paint in September, and then we'd like to roll it out in its final form on Veterans Day. You'll notice it sits in the exhibit on a mirror image of itself. This is the bottom of Stealth 833, so you can see that. Behind it is one of its engines and a cockpit, so you can actually get and see the cockpit lit up over there, and there's a bunch of other displays in here that cover the aircraft. But this aircraft right now is very, very close to being complete in its configuration mode. I like to say that this is Palmdale mode. This is when you would see the airplane as it was being manufactured, but it's going to be back to its old wobbly goblin self. So we'll walk back over here, and I won't walk too fast. That's called a walk and talk, Jason. He's like, I can't believe you can do that. Now, oh, there was a smile. I got a smile out of him. Now, Jason has gone all out. Now, Jason actually picks our merchandise, and today he has come up with a stealth shirt. Be on the first on your block to have the Godfather of stealth will make you a bomb you can't refuse. Jason, what do you think? No? All right, well, that's about as much humor as I could do today. But if you want one of these are really cool shirts. It has a Nighthawk on the front side, and then, of course, the Godfather of Stealth on the back. You can, the characteristic black, go out and click on that merchandise link. Jason will happily run down to the post office and mail one of those out for you in whatever size you deem that works for you. Now, we cannot do all of this, including what we're doing with Stealth, without your help. So you'll see a link here that actually has, in the YouTube link, that actually has the ability for you to donate. Go out on that description page, donate a few shekels if you can. We certainly will appreciate it. If you came across us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. All we do are Warbirds. We talk about a different Warbird every week. It is in a long form video format, so if you can't handle that and want like the TikTok stuff, we don't do that. But if you like what you see, give us a like and a subscription, forward us to your friends. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, we appreciate it. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much for visiting us. Have a great day.
Bye.